Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. The name of the speech, as Chief said, is London Calling. I'll have that brain worm in your head now with the song. Everyone remember the song? Yeah? Anyone here a fan of the Clash at all? Don't want to admit it? You are?
I've been in my
Yeah, yeah. Got them there? May not call yourself a fan, but you know who they are. Well, now that I've done that to you, I have to tell you, the speech today had nothing to do with the song, nothing to do with the band. But enjoy the song anyway in your head. The speech today is about one of my favorite authors of all time, a man named Jack London. Familiar with Jack London? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay, good. There's a guy who really knew how to step out of his comfort zone. Jack London, he died about 100 years ago, 1915, at the ripe young age of 40. Results of scurvy that he caught when he was up the Klondike Gold Rush. He lived at a time when you want to learn something, you don't have the luxury, of course, of the internet. You want to learn about something like Kuala Lumpur. I'm choosing that because I'm getting emails about the Toastmaster Conference. You want to learn about Kuala Lumpur, you just go to Google and type in Kuala Lumpur, and if you spell it right, it comes up on the screen of pictures, travel advisories, flight plans, everything you need to know about Kuala Lumpur. Very, very easy. Long flight, but a beautiful place. I've never been myself, but it looks good in pictures. Jack London's time, you couldn't even turn on the TV, National Geographic, the TV channel anyway. The radio, families didn't have radios in their homes. So what did he have to do? He had to resort to reading. He had to go to a store, buy a magazine, or get a book, or a newspaper, and go home and actually read it. I mean, who does that, right? But he had to in those times. Because if you wanted to learn, you had to kind of stand on the shoulders of people who have actually been there and just dream about what it's like. At the time when he was young in 1893, there was a bit of a mini depression in San Francisco where he lived. Actually, all across the United States, not just centralized to the city. He would spend a lot of time at this bar down at Fisherman's Wharf. A lot of sailors would come in and they would tell stories about the sea. Thinking, well, you know what, that sounds really exciting. There's not much going on here right now, so let's go on an adventure. Only two ways to travel back then, really. There's no flights, and there's no travel reward points either. So you get on a ship, you pay or you work. He had to work. So he got on a sea trawler that was going to Japan, and he had great adventures on the sea. Nothing romantic, nothing swashbuckling with pirates and everything. But you see so much. You get to know other people and you see the beauty of Japan and other islands and other places that you can only imagine. These days it's easy, like I said. Back then, not so much. He went there, he came back, served as a war correspondent, and then he took a great leap for his life. He went up, like I said, to the Klondike Gold Rush. He went with his brother-in-law. And this is where he was inspired to write three of his greatest works, at least to me. The stories really speak to me. One's called To Start a Fire. It's about a man who's trying to light matches. He's in the north and his fingers are frozen and he has to light a fire, but he can't. His fingers are too cold. He can't, there's no big lighter. You just have to, do that. The other was The Call of the Wild, and the other was White Fang. Now, The Call of the Wild was his first book, and that's the one that got him very famous. His first famous book, anyway. And it's about a dog named Buck. You read it? Am I rehashing this for you? You read it? A dog named Buck, this big dog, lives this privileged life in Southern California. It gets up when it wants, chases rabbits, goes back to sleep, lays in the sun. Beautiful life. Great, huh? Yeah, I'd like that. Maybe not chasing rabbits, but still, it sounds like a good life. He gets kidnapped. And he gets sold to pay off a gambling debt. He's taken up to the Yukon and trained to be a sled dog. This privileged dog, this lazy dog, this entitled dog, suddenly has to work in the snow. It has to pull things. It has to pull equipment. It has to pull people. It gets whipped. And it has to fight among the pack for dominance. And this is why he's answering his call of the wild. He has to find that lost part of himself, that lost part of his wolf cousin, more or less, because they're all tied in together. White Fang, which is one I actually like better than The Call of the Wild, is the antithesis. It's like the mirror image of The Call of the Wild. This is a little wolf puppy that is born, and he gets taken in by humans, and it has to lose that wolf instinct that pack mentality, that fight, to become domesticated. And he does. Why these stories reach me? For one, I have a bit of a calling to the north. There's something about it I've always found appealing. At least in my head. If I was actually there, I might not like it too much. But I do like to read about the adventures. I don't know if Jack London meant to do this, but it almost, to me, parallels the human experience. The Call of the Wild, for example. You know, people here in Toronto, we have, water, we can just turn on the tap, and food's right downstairs. Have we lost the art of forage? Have we lost the art of living off the grid? Clearly we did. And clearly we survived because we're here. Otherwise we would have died a long, long time ago as a species. But we did. But have we lost that art? Buck did. I know it's just a story. But Buck found, he answered that call of the wild. And I don't want to ruin the ending for you, but he did dominate. He did survive. He became the king of the pack. How about us? Have we lost that? If you take a Bay Streeter and drop him in the woods, how would he react? Can he survive? Can he find that? Now there's someone else that's very famous because he died. Christopher McCandless, you're familiar with his story?
Yeah.
From Into the Wild. He tried to find that. That's one of the many things that was motivating him to leave society and try to live in the wild. It didn't end very nicely. But I'm wondering if generations, through the generations, can we recapture that spirit? And White Fang, same idea. We started off in the wild, as our ancestor did thousands of years ago, and we've become domesticated. Have we come that far that we can't go back? Survivor doesn't count. Survivor, there's a camera crew. Survivor, if you get sick, you get picked up and taken off the island. They go to a hospital, right? It's different with Christopher McCandless, of course. He died in the bus. Very horribly, too, very slowly. This is why Jack London, not only because stories are written through the eyes of the animal, and although, of course, you can't really imagine what a dog thinks, for me, he made it very believable. And because to me, it parallels the human experience, human evolution, and evolution, depending on where you stand on the fence, it calls to me. And that's why he's one of my favorite authors. Thank you.